I spent hours when I should have been cleaning the house or doing dishes or cooking dinner.
Basically anything else, right?
Right, living, I realize I got to take a piss now.
And then rewarding good behavior. That's childish.
I'm not a dog.
I'm not a child. I'm not a dog. I'm not, right? You're not trying to train me to do my job regularly. Now, that comes into a little bit of the OCD, ADHD, right? I'm willing to give you a bit of that one. I got to tell you, I wanted your advice about something because you're kind of up on the tech and stuff right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm considering buying one of these new reasonably priced, like $300. I don't know if it's Meta or with the goggles, the hand controls, the game,
the Oculus,
what
type of thing.
What do you know, man? Because, man, it seems like it's going to be a gigantic time suck, but every video I see, I'm like, that looks pretty fucking cool.
Well, so there's parts of that are really great. I like how it can actually get people up and moving.
Right. Yeah. Because some of them are up moving around. Right. Yeah.
Right. I think that's great. I think the biggest thing is making sure it's calibrated right if you get it, because you calibrate it to the space that you're in.
Oh, sure. We've all seen the people run into their TV and shit.
Right.
Yeah.
And that shouldn't happen.
Right.
That's not how that works.
I agree. Yeah.
I've thought about it myself.
Okay. So it's not just me.
I wouldn't get a Meta one.
Oh, yeah. No, it wasn't brand specific. I just used that as like a channel lock vice grip example, right? Like,
yeah. No, I'm not going to support Apple or Facebook.
We all know how John feels about Apple
and Facebook.
Yeah. We've talked about this in the past.
I use Facebook, but I don't like the...
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, the platform is doing some interesting things.
Right.
So I bring it up, man, because look, unless you're one of these incredibly fucking disciplined individuals who, quite frankly, annoy the fucking hell out of me, but you've definitely probably at some point been guilty of procrastinating.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I bring it up today because I would assume that I will admit as we go through this episode, I am a bit of a procrastinator myself. And I learned a few things as I did the research for this episode.
Right.
That seems to me like it'd be a huge, even bigger time suck than I really need in my life right now. But I find myself, I must admit, very curious of the augmented reality part of things.
Right.
But yeah, I figured that's what we get into today, but I jumped the gun a little bit. Welcome everybody to the I Shower After Work podcast. Thanks for listening.
I was going to cut you off.
Yeah, I know you were. I saw you. You got your arms crossed and everything. John's like, you're fucking not following the script. God damn it. And also a little housekeeping before we really get going here. Please check out the calendar on our website, isawpodcast.com. It's right at the very top. It says, want to be a guest? ? Click on that. It's a real easy form to fill out if you think you'd be a fun and interesting guest. You can pick a time that we can get together. We can have a phone call or a Zoom meeting, find out if you'd be an interesting guest or not. We are very interested in making 2025 the year of guests on the program. So please, if you think you would be good or you know somebody who'd probably be funny, something other than just these two electricians every week, we'd really appreciate it. So you can find all of that on the I Saw Podcast website.
Right. And if you are on mobile, it is underneath the menu, top menu of the three little lines. You can click on that and you'll see it.
Which a lot of us are on mobile. There's very few of the... I guess it's just because most people are mobile now, right?
Yeah, it's because it's a fucking computer in your pocket. Why not?
It's easy. Why not? So, procrastination, the actual definition, buddy.
Yeah.
And I admit it, I'm going to keep saying it, I am guilty of this in my own life. We'll talk about it in a little while. The habitual or intentional delay of starting or finishing a task despite knowing potential negative consequences.
I'm going to call bullshit on that, even though that is the Webster Dictionary.
How would you like to adjust what I said?
It can be unintentional. I have this issue. It can be unintentional.
Okay, sure.
Completely unintentional. Because of things that we got going on in life, being an adult, shit happens, shit gets forgotten. You don't intend to, you may not intend to forget that you have this thing going on, but it slips your mind. That's unintentional.
Okay, so I yes, what you're saying I agree with. Let me split a hair here real fast before we get going, okay? I would put that under the category of like scheduling or
time management.
That, yes, it'll factor into what we're going to talk about today, but unintentionally forgetting to do something or having a scheduling conflict and not being able to do it, I think that's why this description says intentional, because those aren't intentional things.
But society states that procrastination can be a fucking anything. If you don't do something, you're
Yes,
procrastinating.
absolutely right. We're gonna. I can see we're gonna butt heads a little today. That's good. Okay, but I think that's why the word intentional is in there, because if you do it unintentionally, procrastination is an active, intentional thing you're doing. I think a lot of times. I don't know that I very often unintentionally do it, but maybe you'll be able to sway me or vice versa as we go along here.
I do believe in that because of the simple fact, and I'm going to lean on this, and I know it's been a big talking point across many different platforms. The awareness has come up, but I, myself, and my 2 daughters have ADD.
Right.
Which causes this very thing.
We're going to talk about it, buddy. Yeah, we're going to talk about it. I know you're. This is one of these episodes where John's coming in sort of blind here. I'm just going to lay out some facts. We're just going to discuss it.
It makes me a little hot, and I think people don't understand.
Right, and it makes you a little hot, which is also I thought was going to be fun. So, are you a procrastinator, and to what extent?
Yes, I am. And to the extent of my procrastination stems from executive dysfunction.
Okay.
All right. So when I have a shit ton to do, when my list is really long, I cannot manage to get things going. I can't. And I procrastinate on doing everything.
It's an amazing coincidence that I was just talking to a guy that I know. I'm not going to point out where he works or who he works for. Just keep his anonymity a little bit. He'll know who he is. We just talked about it the other day. I'm pretty sure he said the exact same thing about his situation, that it was that same term, executive dysfunction.
Yep.
So, well, let's jump right into then. There are many different things that will cause you to procrastinate.
Yep.
All right. So if you've been listening to the show recently, I still haven't grouted the tile in my kitchen. I am a procrastinator, folks. And I learned going through this which one of these categories I fall into.
Okay.
So real quick here, buddy, what I found was there's what they call present biased. So the immediate reward of watching TV or playing a game or going to bed or whatever it is, that immediate gratification of I'm going to do something I want to do right now instead of the other thing, the bias of getting that done, right? Obviously, just straight up depression stops people from doing things. Okay?
Yeah.
We can talk about that one in a minute. They do differentiate. One is OCD and then the other is ADHD. Your executive dysfunction one falls under the ADHD side of things, but OCD can also affect that. We'll get into some more details, right? Starting with the first one, that one's obvious, okay? I have these 10 immediate dopamine pleasurable things I could do right now instead of doing that, and it's so easy just to go, fuck it.
Yep.
Right? I always call it, I have a case of the fuck it's. Like, I'm doing the thing I want to do instead of that right now. I think that's probably the category that a lot of people fall into.
When I fall into that section of the case of the fuck it's, as you said, I think that's a very good term. It's a realistic term. Mine ends up being, fuck it, I'm sitting on the couch.
A lot of mine is sitting watching TV.
And it's not about dopamine. It's not about pleasure. It's just wanting to not do anything.
Okay.
Just nothing.
Yeah, it's the same thing, but that is the win. The doing nothing is the win for you, right? There.
I mean, yeah. It's just a shutdown.
Right. Yeah, that's what you want. Someone else might want to play a video game or read a book or whatever it is, right? That just happens to be yours of, I just want to do nothing.
Yep.
I want to sit down here. I want to zone out. I want to veg out, watch the boob tube. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm sure lots of us, and I should point out right off the bat here, I think this is an incredibly low number, but it says the average person, it's 75% of people who regularly procrastinate things. Man, I would have thought that number was way higher.
No. I mean, 75% that's pretty solid. But the thing that you got to remember is people that are like, I don't know what the word is right now. My mind's going 100 fucking miles an hour for some reason. But
I knew this one was going to spin you up. Go ahead.
Yeah. It's the people that procrastinate all the time, right? They almost get into a rhythm of procrastination.
Right.
And then it's said for people with ADD, like we live in a state of procrastination, but then our superpower is being able to see a deadline and be like, nope, do it now. Okay. Last minute, fucking emergency, and it goes smooth as hell.
Yeah.
And we're done. But some people can't do that. So their procrastination actually leads to negative consequences of not actually getting things done when they need to. For
sure. And I had in my notes here, some people do this. They like the pressure of the deadline.
Yep, they like the chaos.
Right.
They live in a state of chaos, and they're very good at managing chaos.
Right. So there's that one. Depression is pretty obvious. Anybody who knows anybody who's been a bit depressed over the years, the motivation, the dark feelings, whatever it is that causes people to feel the way they do. I'm lucky I've never suffered from depression that I know of. I can see that stopping people from actively moving forward.
I'm not going to put depression in that list, though, because depression situations, that's a complete fucking shutdown of everything. That's not just procrastination. I can't tie those two together, because that is, with somebody with depression, it is not procrastination. It's the weight of everything and the simple task of getting up and washing and brushing your teeth. Nope, not doing it. I think depression is more of a paralytic than anything.
I agree that the reason I think that these are broken down the way they are is because they are different symptoms that are causing the same result. I understand where you're coming from. I'm not trying to be argumentative, I swear. But I think that's why the first word in the definition that I gave, habitual.
Habitual.
Right? That's habitual is basically you can't help yourself unintended. Like,
all the time. Right.
I think that's why that word is in there, because yes, someone habitually, regularly putting things off. I think someone in a state of depression, it could lead them to do that. I know it doesn't make them a procrastinator, but by the definition, that causes them through a different mental condition to procrastinate tasks, to put them off, knowing there could be a negative result. It's that spin down the dark.
Okay. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
What you're saying is right. It's a different thing than what we just said, but I think that's why they differentiated these, because they are different root causes of things that can lead to the same end.
Right.
That's all I'm getting at. Okay.
Yeah, well, that's fair.
So
yeah.
Then we get to OCD. Listen, that one's easy. If you got an obsessive compulsive disorder, there is a dozen reasons right off the top of your head why you would procrastinate things, right?
Right.
The over-analyzing things, the overthinking, the over-planning, the doom thought of what if I forget something. That compulsion obviously will lead people to putting off tasks, going, I'm not ready. I don't think I know enough. I don't know if I have the time. That one's pretty simple, right? Yep. And then you can have already, but you can continue to speak on the last one that's on the list here, ADHD.
Yep.
You know, people disagree. You've dealt with this, I'm sure, right? I obviously know that there's people out there who have attention deficit and hyperactivity, right? It's an absolutely true thing. You will talk to a lot of people who don't believe it's true.
Yep.
Don't medicate anybody. They just need to that's not fair, right? But you yourself deal with this a tiny little bit, right?
Yep.
So, and not to downplay it by saying tiny, I say a tiny bit as just a vernacular, folks.
Right.
This is the one that affects you and one of your daughters?
Both of them.
Both of your daughters specifically. Okay.
Yep. Or two of them, not
two of the three, right?
Two of the three. And that's because the two are my genetic
natural
daughters.
born.
Right. So when it comes to the ADD side, and I always say ADD because that's what it's changed to now. There's no ADHD.
Yeah, there's no ADHD, right?
Right. It's just ADD. Yes. Is there times where medication is helpful? Yes. I'm going to tell you right now, it is when tasks are boring, but they have to be done. So with ADD, we have this really cool superpower of it's hyperfixation. Right. If we enjoy something, it's really easy to go down a rabbit hole and forget everything else that we have to do. Right. And I've done that. I did that with this podcast when we first started.
Absolutely.
I spent hours when I should have been cleaning the house or doing dishes or cooking dinner.
Basically anything else, right?
Right. Living, I realize I got to take a piss now. So it can take over everything and I think that's the part where, and we don't need medication for that. If we find enjoyment in something,
right,
dude, we're going to be better at it than everybody else in the world. Right. Because we can focus on it.
Right.
Right. So,
and I would have to think, because I don't deal with this myself, buddy. When you're aware of that, it probably can help you a little bit to know that you need to hyperfocus. And that's what I would assume. You jump down rabbit holes sometimes just for that comfort of, okay, I'm going to hyperfocus on something and take the pressure off my brain and stop thinking about 1,000 things at once and just get in.
Yep.
Excellent. That's something anyway, right?
Yep. But it does cause procrastination in every other part of your life because you'll forget to do everything.
Right. So certainly it does. So not only, because we do talk about construction here, just to spin it that way for a minute, because this can happen at home, or it also happens on the job sites quite a bit. And there's a fairly comprehensive list here on the common reasons that people will do this. Okay. Some of these will obviously be, I should say, obviously be obvious. Some of these will be obvious. Okay. Not knowing what needs to be done, not knowing how to do something, not wanting to do something were the first three. We're going to continue down this list in a minute, but I just want to stop with those three. Those three specifically, and one further down the bottom of thinking that you don't have the time to finish.
Right.
Not starting because you don't know. Those ones are the ones that are really happening on construction sites a lot.
Yep.
Some of them won't be fitting, but not knowing what needs to be done does lead to people go, well, I'll just putz around with this because I don't know about that next part. I haven't looked into that yet, or I haven't been told how to do that yet.
Right.
Obvious, right?
Right.
Not knowing how to. I mean, how many apprentices have you seen just spin their wheels?
Oh, God.
Not move on to the next part that they should be working on, putzing with the last part because they just didn't really know what was going to be next. You can't blame them for it, even though you might have told them they forgot and whatnot, right?
I've seen J-Dubs do that.
Right. Well, that brings up the third one, is the not wanting to do something.
Yep.
Even myself, knowing there's been a part of a project that was down the road or coming up, where you're like, nah, I'm going to get to that. I'm not fucking doing that yet because that's going to suck. I have time. I'll do it. And then it comes back to with me, the time crunch thing. I don't thrive on the time crunch, but I do notice that when there's a deadline, I procrastinate less with a deadline.
Yep.
I do want to get things done on time. It's very important to me. That's my driving force to get beyond my level of procrastination.
Right.
Right. Also, as I said, I enjoy coming home after working all day and sitting next to my wife on the couch and watching some TV show. Like, I really do.
Yep.
We get outside, we do lots of outdoor stuff, but I mean, that's a lot of nights. Like, that's pretty common with people, I assume. Right.
Yep.
What do you think about those factors as far as on the job site goes?
Well, I think they're right on the money. I think a lot of it can be controlled by leadership, especially if you've got apprentices or journeymen that are kind of dragging their feet and they're not knowing exactly what steps to go to. That's on the leadership to be like, hey, this is next step. Get over there and get that taken care of. For me as a foreman in a foreman position, the factor of, hey, okay, so this is coming up and you're right. I completely agree with what you said. I will look at something and be like, I've fucking done that before. That sucks. No.
Not today.
Just not. No. I'm focusing on this.
Yep.
And then realizing, oh shit, I should have done that yesterday because now they're sheetrocking.
Right. It's a bigger deal on a construction site, right? You don't always know exactly how the schedule is going to fall because sometimes things get done early. I know it doesn't happen super often, but when it does, then all of a sudden you knew you had 2 weeks and you're putting it off. And now you fucking cost yourself. Now it's a hassle. Now you're really under the gun. That's the not under the gun fun that I don't mind the pressure of, okay, it's got to be done by this date. But now all of a sudden you're forced. Delaying the uncomfortable feeling for later is a big problem with all this. So
I don't mind the under the gun. I thrive pretty well in the under the gun when it's me, when it's just me. Yeah. I do not like it when it involves other people. When it involves my crew, I don't want to put them under the gun because then shit happens.
And working with the other trades and the PMs and the GCs. And that's the way it goes, buddy. Right. So a few other ones on the list, and the list was long here. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but ones that I thought were sort of poignant, especially when it comes to like construction, things like that. Blaming sickness or poor health. How many times has a shitty job been coming up and all of a sudden a couple dudes call in?
Man,
you knew it was going to be cold that day. I'm not feeling so. Fuck you, like, right? We've all been there, right?
I've done it.
I may have.
I've done it
in my apprenticeship. I may have fucked off and not showed up to something because I knew it was going to suck and it was cold that day.
Yep.
And the procrastination of that isn't so much you procrastinating doing the task, but it's just another version of when it comes to back to that definition. I mean, you're taking the slightly better feeling now and just transferring that to later, because when you walk into work the next day or the day after and you got to look everybody in the eye knowing you didn't show up, you're dealing with the bad sucky feeling then all day, looking them in the eye going, yeah, I wasn't here when you guys were digging that ditch, fucking sorry about that. Like, yeah. And that was a big one. And then for us in construction, sometimes this can't be helped, but it does fall under what we're talking about here, is delaying one task in favor of another.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that's not only because another task is necessarily like rough or bad or whatever the conditions is that you don't like. That can often just be the fact that you've got, let's say, the rest of the afternoon do I want to start this job where I'm going to get either beat up or create a bunch of mess and we have to clean it, like whatever the reasons are,
Right.
as opposed to going, no, I can just do this easy thing that I know is going to take me 3 hours, coast through the rest of the day, and then I'll deal with that in the morning.
Right.
It is procrastination.
Yep.
But you're not just making your life easy exactly like sitting down on the couch and you could be working.
Right.
It's a slightly different thing, but it does fall under this umbrella here. So,
Yep.
So when I said it was 75% of the people, you have been in the construction industry a long time. You can put a lot of different views and history behind this when you were an apprentice, when you were non-union, when you were union. You get such a broad history here that it helps. Not putting off a task just because it's going to suck, but because you can.
Oh, for sure. We do it all the time.
That's a huge one for us in the construction industry. You know the other things that be get done if you're in a position of leadership or something where you have a broad scope.
Yep.
It's really easy to do that.
Yep.
And it, not more often than not, but very often, can fuck you over at the end of the day.
Yep. Yeah. Well, we do it all the time though, because it's some of the times we're forced to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we can't focus on what we want to focus. We have to focus on something else and put what we really want to do off, or what needs to be done off.
Right.
That's no fault of our own. That's controlled by GCs and other trades and stuff like that. And if you have a small crew, it doesn't matter what form you're in, if union, non-union, service, or whatever. If your attention is pulled away by somebody else, yes, you are still having to do a task. And yes, you have to procrastinate, as the definition goes.
Right.
You have to procrastinate on something else that could potentially screw you over if you don't get back to it.
Right.
Or if you don't get somebody on it.
Right.
Right. But at the same time, if we focus on, if you try to not procrastinate on a job site, we'll say it that way.
Right.
If you try to mitigate that at all costs, you're not working with the flow of the project either. Because every other tradesman out there, somebody along the lines is procrastinating on something.
We've all been there. And the reason I brought this one up specifically, breaking down exactly what you just said, is a perfect lead up to this. When you are taken for whatever reason, no fault of your own, you have to change gears and go to another task. That, for me, and for a lot of people, I'm sure, that makes it easier when it's not me being forced later on to go, well, I'm going to switch tasks to do something else, because that happens to me all the time anyway.
Right.
You
justify it.
Justify it. Make it perfect. Thank you. I was struggling for the word there, right?
I saw.
It makes it really easy to justify that because, well, it happens to me. Why can't I do that?
Right.
I want to make my life easier for the afternoon, for this week. Like, yeah.
Right.
It's something that seems so hard for us to avoid unless you're one of those like crazy, hyper-focused people. Oh, sorry, folks. Just had a phone call that was a lot louder than I expected. Yeah, volume off, but some reason it was buzzing that time. So getting back on track. But just to keep a broader scope here, I just want to point out for a minute, this isn't always necessarily a task, a job that you have to do. This could be dealing with meeting up with a friend, scheduling a health visit, dentist, getting your eyes checked, meeting your financial. It can also be putting off all of those things, which a lot of those can be a very negative, detrimental thing when you put them off, right? Because the deadline on some of that stuff could be a delayed retirement, could be putting your health at risk because, I'm going to get to that physical. I'm going to get to the dentist.
Could literally be a deadline.
Right. It could literally be a deadline. So I want to make sure just for a second we pointed that out, because procrastination isn't just finishing a task. It could be getting to something that you should be getting taken care of.
Yeah.
I know myself. Yeah, I'm not the best with, like I said, my tile job still isn't done, folks. I'll get it done. But it's not so much those things as like I put off going to like meeting up with my financial advisor as often as I should. That might delay my retirement.
Yeah.
When I knew I should have looked at it more 5 years ago, right? Yep. The health things especially, right? Like I get to the dentist, folks, but I should be going more regularly.
Yeah, me too.
Stuff like that, right? I haven't had a physical since I got into the union.
Yeah, that's important.
Right. That one's, I will admit the things. I'm not going to bullshit you folks. Like I'm guilty of these things too. And I just want to be honest in the hopes that maybe you can be honest with yourself too. Like, yeah, maybe I'm doing that. I should get that. It's those procrastinations that are important as well. And I like that you pointed out the deadline could literally be a deadline. Yeah, right. So I like that.
And you have a good point there, Jason. The fact of the matter is what we procrastinate on. I think what people procrastinate on most is just getting started with something, right? Not the task itself, right? Because yes, the task may suck or the task may not suck, but just getting started, making a phone call to the doctor's office, looking their website up to schedule it online, whatever you got to do. People will put that off because they think, oh, that's only going to take me a minute. I'll just deal with that a little later.
The little later turns out to be a long ways away, right?
Right. And I think as long as people start being a little bit more honest with themselves, I think there's a lot of soul searching that needs to be done amongst people, being like, no, this is where I'm weak. This is the problem I have. And then being able to focus on that problem, whether it be the executive dysfunction that I have. I'm trying to get better at that when I see a long list, just to pick something on that list of shit to do and do it. Because as soon as even if it's a minor task, I'm doing something.
Right.
And it'll help get the ball rolling.
So you hit one of the things on the list here, all right? So ways to combat this. And this is actually where I did a little bit of soul searching myself to go, okay, let me be honest, which one of these or multiples of these things would be what I consider the reasons that I do it the most often, right? So let's go through a few of them here. It's not a long list, folks. So the first one is, and this is from Psychology Today, get rid of catastrophizing. So I had to look it up. Describe
that a little bit to me, please.
The worry that somehow this project will turn into a catastrophe. So you're worried that you're going to forget.
Doomsday scenario shit.
Oh, what if I start the plumbing job and I get a water leak? I turn the electrical off to do this. I start framing this building up in the weather. Okay?
Right.
That one's a big one for a lot of people, right?
Right.
If it all goes wrong, I only set aside 3 hours to do this. And if it goes sideways, well, I had something to do in 4 hours. Nah, I better not do it now because it might get out of hand. Like, knowing the thought that it'll go sideways. Okay? That's one of them, right? Or just quickly to the vein of the health and finance and all that, the thought that you might get bad news.
Yep.
You might find out you need a cavity, a root canal. You might find out you need to change your health or your blood pressure, right? So that catastrophizing was kind of a good one to have on the list.
Yeah.
Focusing on the why you're doing something. What the benefit is, that supposedly helps a lot.
Right.
Not just knowing the project needs to be done because it has to be done, but the reasons why. Keeping that in your head apparently helps a lot of people.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
You just said getting out your calendar. Get it on the books. I'm going to do it today. Yes, it'll only take me 5 minutes, but I got it scheduled. Right when I get off work this day, I'm going to fucking do that. The scheduling for some people, seeing it on paper, having it there, that helps people out, all right? Being realistic. This one, when I thought about it for a little bit, I always talk to a few friends and people I know before these episodes to get like a different perspective.
Except for me.
Except for you, because sometimes I'm just going to leave you in the weeds to talk and think on the fly. Side note here, buddy, okay? I do this to you occasionally, and you may already realize this, right? To get your natural reactions and thought processes to things when you're not given advance notice, when I put you on the spot, are different in a fun way than when you have time to prepare.
Right.
It's fun for me sometimes to let you just spin in the moment because you have original, unfiltered thoughts sometimes that come across as poignant and also funny. So that's why I do that. Okay. There's a reason you don't always know what we're going to be talking about. All right. And you hit me occasionally. So, but yeah, being realistic for some people who get into a project who don't know the time it takes, the skill level involved, the skills they need to do it, the money it's going to take, right? Stuff like that. That's an obvious one, right? Yep. Now, this one is exactly what you were speaking at with you, though. They refer to it as chunk it.
Yep.
Right? Breaking things down into manageable parts of even smaller sections of the total task.
Yep.
For some people, that's what it is. Don't get overwhelmed with the whole thing. Today, I'm just going to get this part done.
Yep.
That can help out a lot of people. That's one for me. Yep. Okay. That one really took me not back, but that one sunk in with me really well to not, because we can't help it in our industry to try to think about the grand scheme because we're planning in advance grand scheme. We're trying to keep all the balls in the air and keep all the thoughts in our head.
Yep.
For me personally, this is a good one to just chunk it down into little things that I can control and go, okay, today is this chunk, this chunk, this chunk. That does work for me, I must admit.
It's important to understand that when we're in charge of people and projects and stuff like that, and you have this gigantic project that you're doing, right? It's important to understand, and for men and women to realize that if they're in charge of this, the whole building's not going up at one time.
Right.
The whole project's not getting done at one time. You can just, like you said, break that down. You know what phases are, right? Write yourself a list, right? A list of, okay, phase A, phase B, footings, foundation, walls, cap. Like, break it down so that you can focus on X number of things for these amount of weeks, right? And chunking it and breaking tasks down go back to high school days. It goes back to school days when you have a big project due. Well, break it down. If you see that your kid is having problems with getting these big projects and then they kind of freak out like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. Or they'll give out signals like, I've got so much research to do. Well, no, you don't. You need this part for today.
Right.
Work on this part today. And I think that'll help build people a little bit different.
Right. And listen, I know for people listening that are in the trades, like you're like, oh, obviously, dickhead. But we all still struggle with this in our own way, one way or another. Like some people are like, yeah, you write everything down. You put it in your calendar. Yeah, you just do a little piece at a time. Yeah, sure. Some of you are great at this, but 75% of us aren't.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, at one point, you weren't great at that either.
Right. Yeah.
At some point in your life, you had to figure that the fuck out.
Exactly. And I mean, the example they gave in this article, I tried to think of a better one that was more poignant, but this one summed it up so well. If you're going to write a book, you don't sit down and write the whole book.
No, absolutely not.
Chapters.
Yep.
Right? Like
first fucking paragraph.
Right. Yeah. Like, yeah, break it down. So anyways,
right.
This is for the people who do struggle with this, like some of us. This one's pretty obvious, like excuses be gone. You hear these, I'm not in the mood. Next week could be better. Oh, I got a lot of work. I'm tired from work. Excuses that's an obvious one. We're not going to beat a dead horse, right?
Right.
This one also kind of struck with me really well of get a partner. If you have somebody else scheduled to come and work on a specific task, it's going to be much easier for you not to do that because you know they're coming or they're scheduled to come, because then there's also that embarrassment of a phone call to call up and either be honest or make an excuse about why you can't work that day.
Right.
Right. That one.
It's accountability.
Right. That's perfect. Yeah.
Yep.
The accountability of working with somebody else and having them, that one would probably solve this problem for a lot of that percentage.
I love having people that I work with that they're not afraid to look at me and go, hey, thanks for fucking leaving me high and dry, dick.
Because we've all been on that side of the coin too, where somebody left you hanging. You needed a second person or third person to do that job and they didn't show. Yep. And then that's not procrastination. Now you're just fucked. Because they procrastinated, right?
Exactly. And if I'm teamed up with a guy or if I'm working with somebody that is, helping me out or if I'm helping them out, it doesn't matter. I make it a point in my life to never hear that from them.
Right.
I will never hear, hey, thanks for leaving me high and dry.
Yeah, it's an important thing that I didn't mention yet, but now that you bring it up, like your procrastination, not you personally, but in individuals, can affect somebody else or the project.
And most of the time it does.
And most of the time it probably does, right?
Yeah.
These ones are, I can see how it would work for some people. I don't exactly agree with them. I'm just going to say them both at the same time here. Optimize your environment. So make sure you've got the best environment. Do not disturb. Right. Do not disturb sign. Take the technology. If it was easy as closing the laptop and turn the TV off, nobody'd procrastinate. It's not that easy, right? And then rewarding good behavior. That's childish.
I'm not a dog.
I'm not a child. I'm not a dog. I'm not, right? You're not trying to train me to do my job regularly. Rewarding yourself for getting something done. The reward is having it done. It's as simple as that. So,
God, that was me that time.
Yeah, that was you that time. Yeah. We do still have technology issues here occasionally, folks, so we appreciate it. This one, actually, I should have added to those other two. Forgive yourself. Don't hate yourself when you procrastinate. It does cause stress on people, right? Like you procrastinate, you knew you should have done it, now you did it, now you feel bad later about not doing it.
Right.
Okay, woo, forgive yourself. Yeah, okay, great. Like I'm moving on from that one. For some people who feel ultra bad about stuff when they don't get it done, I can appreciate that one at least, all right?
Right.
This is the one that I'm going to try to use the most, all right?
Yep.
Drop the perfectionism.
Ooh.
Worrying about, that's part of the reason I don't want to mess up the grout in my tile. I want to make sure the edging looks nice and straight. I'm worried about not being in the mood and not having the ambition to do the perfect job.
Right.
Dropping that and just getting it done. Not doing it shitty, but not being so concerned about, okay, I want to make sure I have a whole day or a whole whatever and not screwing it up. That's one that for me, I think is probably one of my biggest problems. I don't want to do a half-assed job. And I think I need to take all the time in the world to make sure I'm in exactly the right mood at the right time with the flexibility of my schedule so I can do it the way it's got to be. Drop the perfectionism.
No, absolutely. I mean, so many people need to understand that is so fucking important because guess what? Life isn't perfect.
It's really not.
Like if you strive for perfection, you're going to let yourself down so many times. Right. Yeah, kind of embrace the imperfect.
Man, it's got to be done. So done and not to perfection is something that would definitely, I'm going to keep this one in my head as time goes on.
I liked
it too. Yeah, it really struck a chord with me when I saw it.
Because I get stuck in that trap too. I get stuck in I've peeled up rows of tile that I put down because it wasn't perfect.
Right.
Rows, not just a couple tiles, rows.
Yeah. Now that comes into a little bit of the OCD ADHD with you too, right? I'm willing to give you a bit of that one.
But I like things I do to look right. Look nice, look perfect.
We're professional construction people. We want to do a quality job when we want to do it every time.
I liked it how my boss put it to me one day. And because I was working with a guy and I'm a perfectionist and he is not. And my boss looked at me, he's like, maybe you should be a little more like him and he should be a little bit more like you.
There is some common middle ground that can be found, right?
And it's just like, that just reminded me of Demolition Man.
Fun comparison, actually. So, I mean, like I can think of, and this one's not exactly construction related, but I think it's poignant. I'm thinking of the time that procrastination cost me the worst because I don't always do it. It's why the perfectionism thing really struck a chord with me. If the lawn got to be mowed, the trees got to be trimmed, snow blowing got to be done, something got to be fixed in the car, I just go and do those.
Yeah.
It seems to me with me, it's the construction, home improvement related stuff that I tend to put off more than anything else. Whatever the varying reasons are, I will eventually be able to soul search enough to know why. Probably through some of this episode, figuring all this out in my head. The perfectionism thing, definitely, right? Yep. I mean, like, I remember being young and knowing there was something going on with my teeth. It wasn't comfortable. It was a little so I put it off. And then all of a sudden, I was scrambling with a low-paid job when I was a kid with very little money, trying to get a temporary emergency credit card for $500 because I had to go in and have my wisdom teeth taken out, like emergency surgery.
Yep.
It cost me at the moment. It cost me physically. I wasn't happy. I was uncomfortable. I missed some work. Yep. You know, that sort of thing. I remember that one real specifically. Like when it comes to health stuff, like, fuck, that was shitty. Yep. And that rippled down the line for a while. Getting that bill paid back, time at work, stuff I didn't go to, could hardly talk for a few days. And I worked in an industry at the time where I spoke all day, every day to people. Right. Like it was a shit show. Right. Have you ever gotten bit?
Oh yeah, dude, I've gotten bit so many times. I've got a laundry list that I can't even put numbers on. I have always had a real problem with procrastination. To even simple shit like doing the dishes, doing the laundry, shit like that. Like there's days that I've come home just like, yeah, no, I ain't fucking doing any of that.
Right. And again, no judgment. For some reason, again, people are so different, right? That's why I say those tasks, man, I just do those tasks. Yep. Oh, the dishes, I'll load up the dishwasher. I'll get that washed up. Like that stuff, for some reason, it's always with me. It's the construction stuff.
Yeah. I mean, the construction stuff in the home, I'm the same way. But I think what I figured out with me, maybe it's the same with you, but for me, I'm around construction all day. I'm around the noise. Mm-hmm. I'm around the projects. I've got wires hanging in my garage from tearing down a wall that I still haven't done anything with. And that was 3 years ago.
Yeah. I think that's got to be real common with construction. People come home and go, I don't want to do no more construction. Like laundry, sure. Yard work, sure. Like, but yeah, it's one more construction thing today. Nah. Yeah.
No, I've been listening to nail guns and screw guns all fucking day. I don't want to hear any of them.
Right. And I know there's reasons behind it, but that falls right into one of the things we talked about earlier about the making excuses.
Mm-hmm.
That's an excuse.
Yeah.
Legitimate or not, right? That's an excuse. And it's one that I'm sure anybody listening who's in construction goes, yeah,
Yep.
fuck all that. Like, I don't feel like doing it.
Right.
So I kind of get it, right?
Right. I'm more apt to do framing and plumbing on my house way before electrical. And that's because I'm an electrician. I do it all fucking day long.
Oh, definitely.
And
Yeah.
I wonder if it's the same with the plumbers and stuff like that. If you're a plumber or a framer listening to this, hit us up on our DM on Instagram there and let us know. Is the plumbing or the framing or the ductwork, or is that what takes so long in your house? Or do you just like, nope, this has to get done because this is...
Yeah, for those 25% of people that I said annoy the shit out of me. This falls into the same group of people that can work all day and then go to the gym. We've talked about it in a recent episode.
Yeah.
Good on you. It's not me, man. The level of ambition it takes to work all day and then still get there and get after it in the gym. Good for you. I wish I had it. I really do.
Right.
maybe leading up to my beach vacation that's coming up here, because I am kind of anxious to be in a little better shape for that. Maybe all this talk today jumpstarts me in the right direction. That'd be something. But I'll be honest with you, buddy. That's all I had for today. I just wanted to get it out there because, I mean, most of us are guilty of it.
Yeah.
Here's some reasons why, some ways to avoid it. Just something for everybody listening to go, maybe I should think about it for a minute.
Well, and if you're an adult and you're listening to this, you know where you land on this spectrum, because whether you do it or you don't, maybe you're one of the odd ones. And yes, I'm with Jason. Like, I try to disagree sometimes, but no, you annoy the fuck out of me if you're just like, oh yeah, no, I don't procrastinate anything. I just do everything. I just do it when I need to get it done. Like, well before, I don't like panic, whatever. Yeah. I strive in chaos, and I did for years, but it is what it is.
I'm happy to say I don't strive in chaos. And I think the fact that I try to make sure that this doesn't happen in my professional life makes me feel, pardon me, folks, makes me feel a little okay with it in my personal life. Because I don't want to get myself in that position at work. Right. For myself, for my employer, for the company that I'm working for, whatever. Right. I think that does encourage me a little bit. And I know I shit on it a little while ago, so I'm going to make a mild retraction right now, because I said, fuck that. And now I'm looking back on, I was just going to tell the people to follow that exact advice. Give yourself a break. I'm not going to say forgive yourself, because that sounds a little wishy-washy, right?
Yeah.
Don't get down on yourself because you still procrastinate. We're going to do it all the time.
Yeah.
You'll get after it eventually, but just be aware of when you're doing it. Right. And maybe take a few of these little things that we talked about today to heart and go, well, I won't be such a perfectionist from now on.
Right.
Right.
Right. Yeah. No, don't beat yourself up. I mean, you don't have to forgive yourself. Just, it is what it is.
Yeah. Forgive means you're just going to let it go. Like, don't let it go.
Give yourself a little grace.
Yeah. You're okay.
Knowing that, like, you're not going to cause world ending problems.
Oh yeah. My kitchen functions perfectly great without the towel grouted.
Right.
But it'll also be nice to have that small lingering knowing I have the job off my shoulders.
Oh, for sure. And I think that's the dopamine win for everything, is just ending the task, right. Being like, finally, fuck, I'm done.
Well, again, when I was talking to some people about it this week, it was the relaxation and the stress off your shoulders of having it done. How many times have you sat back after you finally did the project you've been meaning to get to, and you stand back and go, poof, got it. And the first thing your brain says, fucking should have done that 6 weeks ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you know it, right? Yeah. Look at the then you wouldn't have had to do it that day. Like, it's the pre-gratification for the later. Like, yeah, it's right. Again, it's something we're all
and understand that procrastinators, it's not just I'm going to forget about that until last minute. I am thinking about that thing every single day up to the fucking deadline.
A little bit. It pops into your mind
every day.
Yeah, it's a distraction.
And then, I think that's where most people would benefit from not procrastinating, is you want to have that constant little fucker on your shoulder going, hey, this is still here.
Right. Oh, hey, listen, man, I've been meaning to learn my proper Spanish for a long time.
Yeah.
I never get around to it.
No. And I've always thought it would probably be a good idea with construction as it is
right.
these days.
Construction, travel, like it would help, right? Yep. But yeah, that's one of the things that I always think, like, it's not something I had a deadline on. It's not something I'm required to do, because I bring it up because they're not always things you have to do.
Right.
Like, I have to eventually finish the tile in my kitchen.
Right.
You eventually have to change the brakes in the car. You don't have to learn a new language. You don't have to read that book.
No.
But even putting some of those things off, I mean, small wins, right? I'm
Right.
going to try for small wins
Small
in the
wins.
next year. Yeah.
That's a good term to end on. Small wins.
Small wins. I like it.
Keep the small wins.
But unless you got anything else, my friend.
Nope. Just a quick reminder, rate, review, subscribe. Let us know how we're doing. We want to get as much feedback as we possibly can because it does actually help us grow and strive for better. And we want to hear what you guys have to say. We love actually getting responses from people. So hit us up. Let us know. Other than that, want everybody, even if you procrastinate, even if you are the person that lives in a state of chaos perpetually your entire life and you're in construction, remember, your work keeps the world working no matter when you get it done.
That's the perfect way to end this. Thank you, everybody, for listening once again this week. As John said, please reach out and let us know if you have any thoughts on this. And if you procrastinate less on one thing this week, tell a friend about the episode.
There you go.
All right. Sláinte, buddy. Thank you.
Launch it, sir.